Flames were going everywhere. And by the time we got back, well, there was nothing left. We basically have lost everything.
Scattered items, dust and rubble are all that are left of Richard Murray's home now. The ashes mark the scene of devastation at the site where Murray's home stood for many decades. Powered by strong winds and fueled by high temperatures, a wild inferno is burning down buildings, cattle, and livelihoods across the Texas Panhandle, the northernmost area of Texas in the United States. Many, like Richard Murray, sift through the ashes. They had tried desperately to save their homes from the furious blaze. But all they could do was to watch it all go up in flames.
You know, it was heartbreaking. It's our home. And not just us. We're in a good situation, but there's other families, you know, and they're really gonna hurt. Really gonna hurt. And all the ranchers around.
The Texas wildfire is the biggest blaze in the state's history so far. Across the Central Plains, around 8 million people are under red flag warnings. The temperatures are above normal in the Texas Panhandle. And the devastation is far from over, as the inferno is expected to spread more rapidly with ferocious winds and dry air fueling the flames. It marks another year and another record-breaking wildfire in the United States. But the US is not alone. In this episode of Wide Angle, we tell you why wildfires need our attention. From their cause to their impact, wildfires threaten homes, lives, and security. A wildfire is an unplanned and unpredictable fire in an area of combustible vegetation. Wildfires can start with a natural event, like a lightning strike or a human-made spark. But regardless of how it starts, it is the weather conditions that determine how much a wildfire spreads. The northern parts of the United States is home to some of the world's densest forests. It's also the reason why it experiences wildfires every year. Texas is currently battling its most shattering wildfire season on record. The blaze, known as the Smokehouse Creek Fire, has scorched over 1 million acres in the Texas Panhandle, making it one of the largest in the U.S. history. Racing across dry grasslands and residential areas, it destroyed cattle ranches, killing at least 2 people and thousands of cattle. Wildfires in the Texas Panhandle forced residents to flee their homes and seek shelter. The Celebration Family Church in the small town of Fritch, Texas, offered people and their pets a place to spend the night.
We had 50 plus people that has come through. We've tried to keep everybody's name, but at one point there was just so many coming in, and some of them would come in to use the restroom but go back out in their car because they had their animals.
Oh, yeah.
But we had animals here too. We had goats and horses and rabbits and cats and dogs.
The Smokehouse Creek fire started on the 26th of February. It spread around the town of Canadian, a cattle country community of about 2,200 people northeast of Amarillo, near the Oklahoma border. Within a couple of days, the fire spread across vast swaths of ranch lands in the Panhandle. The fire has been burning across a sparsely populated area of Texas that is home to most of the state's cattle, millions of cows, calves, steers, and bulls. Wildfires are nothing new for Panhandle ranchers, many of whom know how to use makeshift fire trucks to fight a blaze. Wide swaths of the grassland that Texas cattle rely on for food are charred. Thousands of cattle are dead or injured. Supporters of farmers and ranchers delivered donations to those affected by the wildfire in Texas. The donations of hay and cattle feed for the stricken farmers and supplies for the firefighters were dropped off at a supply point in Pampa in northwest Texas. In most of Texas, wildfires happen in summer, but in the Panhandle, the fire risk is highest around March when the temperatures rise. Strong winds blow over the flat landscape and the dry grass can easily catch fire.
The fuels that burn the wildfire typically have grown during the previous summer when there's rainfall. And then we have hard freezes and they go dormant or dead in the wintertime. And things green up again, typically around April and May, but you have this window of time when temperatures are going up and you get these occasional storm systems that bring strong winds and dry air from the desert southwest, where basically all the ingredients are in place for rapidly spreading wildfires. So West Texas, our wildfire season peaks in March rather than in the middle of the summer.
Other parts of the United States also continue to experience extreme weather. Thousands of kilometers away, a powerful blizzard battered the states of California and Nevada. The snowstorm has already closed major roads and ski resorts in the two states and left thousands without power. These extreme weather events are occurring against the backdrop of the 2023 to 2024 winter season, which is being called the warmest on record for large stretches of the United States. Let's take you to South America now. Brazil's northernmost state of Roraima is suffering a spike in wildfires. In just 2 months of this year, the National Institute for Space Research, or INPE, identified 2,606 fires in Roraima, compared to 2,659 in all of 2023. February alone saw at least 2,002 fire outbreaks in Roraima. A devastating wave of wildfires hitting the Roraima state has put indigenous communities living there at risk. The wildfires have reignited fears of a catastrophe in the Amazon rainforest after months of improved deforestation data. In a historic surge, nearly 3,000 forest fires were documented in the Brazilian Amazon this month, marking the highest February count since records began in 1999. The northern region, particularly the state of Roraima housing the Yanomami Indigenous Reserve, faced the brunt of the fires. At least 251 blazes have been recorded on Yanomami land. The Yanomami is a group of about 35,000 indigenous people who live in villages in the Amazon rainforest bordering Venezuela and Brazil. Brazilian firefighters were deployed in Yanomami to extinguish rampant fires in a relentless battle, to contain the flames and protect the indigenous lands from further devastation.
With these climate changes, we are realizing that with each year the situation is getting worse, including in the areas bordering the indigenous land, which are more degraded. In these areas, there are many invasions of public lands, a lot of cattle, and a lot of deforestation, which ends up harming the Yanomami lands.
In the village of Novo Paraíso, the community fears losing their cassava lands, one of the most important crops for the indigenous people. Loretta, a villager, called for help to fight the ravaging fires that spread over 5 kilometers of forest.
Today we find ourselves in this situation and ask for help because the fires are spreading more than 5 kilometers and the forest is burning. I ask for help and support because we are tired. For a week now, my people have been working day and night fighting the fire, which is not easy for us.
Another South American country where wildfires wreaked havoc is Chile. In February, it witnessed one of the worst wildfires in its history. High temperatures and high winds, two factors majorly responsible for the disaster that killed at least 131 people. Once a lush oasis bursting with native and exotic plants, Chile's national botanical garden is now grayed and charred. Large trees were blackened and uprooted. The hills around the gardens were covered in ash. A garden employee was also killed, along with 3 of her family members.
El jardín botánico tiene 3 macrolotes. El lote A que da hacia Viña, digamos, que tiene...
The botanical garden has 3 macro lots. Lot A, which faces Vina, which is 118 hectares, burned completely. That was a residual eucalyptus forest, pine and some native forest.
Aquí está lo que era mi taller. Esto quedó destruido total.
Sergio Espejo returned to his charred home with his wife Maria Soledad to salvage what little they could from the ashes. Precious family items went up in smoke in Sergio and Maria's Viña del Mar home.
Sergio always thought there would be a tragedy, an earthquake or something like that, and we would have been left with nothing to eat. So we had 3 fridges where we would have food. It was all lost, it was all burnt. There are no remains of the fridges.
No hay rastros de las congeladoras. Jamás cruzado. Eso es mi taller. ¿Qué amo? Ay, todo el sacrificio, toda una vida.
And then there is also those who can't speak of their ordeal. Wildfires in Chile equally threatened the lives of these animals. Traumatized dogs and cats wandered the streets, covered in ash and burns. Christopher Romero found his dog, Black, in a ravine and took him to the Americas University Veterinary Clinic in Viña del Mar, which was treating pets injured in the wildfires.
There is a much bigger tragedy. I have never seen a situation as complex as this. There are many students affected and people who send us videos of injured animals. It is a very difficult situation.
The month of February this year is likely to be the hottest February ever recorded. The combination of abnormal warm temperatures, dry grasses, and a sudden windy cold front paved the way for destructive wildfires in Texas. On one hand, spring-like conditions caused flowers to bloom early from Japan to Mexico. On another, wildfires broke out from the United States to Chile. All this is due to fossil fuel-driven climate change and the warming in the eastern Pacific Ocean. This climate pattern is known as El Niño, which means little boy in Spanish. Opposite to this, there is La Niña, which means little girl in Spanish. It causes water in the eastern Pacific to be colder than usual. And then, thousands of miles away in Australia, El Niño tends to dry out large swaths of land, providing fodder for more fires. Firefighters in Australia are battling a huge blaze that has forced the evacuation of tens of thousands of people, amid some of the worst fire conditions the country has seen in recent years. Hot, dry and windy conditions have created extreme to catastrophic fire dangers in Victoria and South Australia. Around 30,000 residents were ordered to evacuate Victoria. The fire destroyed properties, killed livestock, and is threatening to spread through towns.
We are sadly hearing reports of property loss that are starting to come through. Given the active nature of the fire and the difficult terrain in the area, it is going to take some time to assess the full extent of the damage. Also, too, they need to be able to go into areas that have been made safe.
Meanwhile, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese pledged to assist Victoria State in the wildfire emergency. Around 1,000 firefighters, supported by over 50 aircraft, battled the fires since they started.
We will provide whatever support is requested from Victoria. These are difficult times, and I say to people, listen to the advice of the authorities. We need to make sure that we watch and act when that advice comes through. It's a reminder of the need for us to be vigilant, for us to continue to work and act on the threat that is climate change, with an increased number of extreme weather events and increased intensity of those events.
Wildfires have left a path of destruction around the world, razing forests, displacing animals and humans, and wiping out entire towns. But is there a way to control this blazing trail? Authorities advise people living in potential risk areas to remove dried branches, leaves, and other fire hazards from around their homes. They should also keep emergency numbers handy to report an approaching fire. Each year, the wildfires are growing bigger, spreading faster and reaching higher. They are killing a greater number of trees and burning down entire patches of forest land. As humans continue to heat up the world with fossil fuel pollution, the risk of extreme wildfire seasons will only increase in the future. While tackling the climate crisis is a key priority in wildlife prevention, the mindset of people, of authorities, also needs to shift. From fighting fires to mitigating the risk of extreme events that are causing them to repeat. Unless that happens, the wildfires will remain the burning issue for our times.